Obama Nation Care cleared its biggest hurdle in the Senate. It has one more hurdle, the full vote, coming up, they're saying, the next 3 to 4 days. Then it goes to conference between the House and Senate. If it can get to conference, it has a 90% chance, and that's a dead reckoning, no one's sure, of passing and being on Obama's desk in the first couple of weeks of 2010. So that is coming up. We're going to be breaking that down. Again, headline, Senate health bill passes major test. Health plans on collision course with the House. Also coming up, Senator says White House foes of healthcare bill are birthers, right-wingers, militias, Aryan groups. And that's what the MIAC and Homeland Security report says. It says if you don't like the Federal Reserve ripping you off, if you don't like Obama spending more money in the last year or less than all presidents before him combined, you are a danger to the country. And so that is coming up. Look, I want to just play. There's 2 parts. We're just going to play the first part from YouTube of CNN and former Microsoft head talk of geoengineering the planet, part 1 of 2. And Fareed Zakaria talks with the former chief technology officer of Microsoft. And they talk about how easy it is to put up these giant blimps up into the upper atmosphere, putting out sulfur dioxide to negate the effects of carbon dioxide. Now, out in the open, they're talking about geoengineering, terraforming. The issue is they're already using this. They've already got weather modification blimps up. In fact, I printed it last night and meant to give it to you this morning when I was here at like 10. The headline was, to find one of the articles, was UFO over Salt Lake. And it's a giant blimp. These blimps are on record flying around spraying the atmosphere and surveilling people. I have the Washington Post, New York Times 6-7 years ago when they announced they were putting these blimps up for multiple reasons. But then the local news, they call the Air Force and say, what is this? They go, we don't know. So the locals go, it's a flying saucer. Same thing over Russia. You can see the propellers on the thing. They use propellers even on the most high-tech blimps. You can see the blisters of solar panels on the sides to power it. These are unmanned giant blimps that stay up for years. So they announce they deploy them, then make it classified, and the public's like, Martians! Martians! No, it's surveillance and weather modification blimps. And I go on shows like Mancow, nationally syndicated, and he makes fun of me, saying it doesn't exist, even though I give him the articles. I'm the crazy man. I'm the crazy man in Psychology Today, believing in this. Because in fact, just Google for everybody on TV right now. After you do UFO over Salt Lake, I printed it last night. It should be in the printer. Jaren's got the video. Google this. Homeland Security launches blimps. You'll get MSNBC. Watch. Homeland Security launches blimps. And you'll see a giant blimp being launched over D.C. rising up in the photo from MSNBC. And literally hundreds of other. So 6, 7, 8 years ago, they announced all this. Now the blimps are everywhere, and people are in Dallas, and people are in Salt Lake, and people are in Moscow going, aliens, aliens. There it is. UAV satellites, blimps, Homeland Security. That's from Homeland Security Newswire. Raytheon blimp ideal for surveillance, cruise missions, detection. So you guys found a bunch of them. But the point is, all of this is going on. Add source MSNBC after it or Newsweek. I want them. Oh, you found MSNBC. Oh, again, super blimps. That's not the same article. Eyes in the sky for Homeland Security. Scroll down. Well, they may have just taken the photo off. There's a bunch of them, is my point. So, and they do this. They announce a world government, then they say it doesn't exist. You're a kook if you talk about it. They announce, in 1992, a scientist won a Nobel Prize, or was it 93? We've covered this, and I'm doing research the last few years on chemtrails for a film I'm making. And they admit that they have adding to jet fuel so that the air traffic controllers don't know, the pilots don't know. There's only 3 or 4 big manufacturers of the jet fuel for your mainline airports. It's added. It's designed to disperse nuclei for cloud formation, ammonium, sulfur dioxide, barium salts, aluminum dioxide, and it disperses it into the atmosphere. And so by 95, they launched tests. And suddenly people went, I never saw a condensation trail last more than a minute or two. That thing's been up there for 5 hours. It's turning into a cloud bank. Well, what's going on? And then the White House science czar comes out in his first speech to an AP meeting. There it is. Eyes in the sky for Homeland Security. The exact photo I told you about. That's from 2005. Homeland Security blimps. And look at it over the Washington Monument. Blow that up for folks, please. See, but then I go on national radio shows and get made fun of. The public wants to believe it's flying saucers. In fact, since I'm already covering this, let's go ahead and I sent you several clips from ABC News and others where they're going, is it flying saucers? You know, is it aliens? And they got these things over Moscow. Now, when you watch the CNN piece, they show giant V-shaped blimps. And those are the really big ones that go up to 100,000 feet or higher and just hover around in circles. And it's so high up, you got to have a telescope to look at them. I mean, literally, if I had the time, I could. They've got one over Dallas. It looks at all of Texas. I could drive up there on a clear day, scan around with it with a filter, because it's white. You got to see it behind the background with like a brown filter. I took astronomy in school and own a couple telescopes. The point is, and I could look around and find them. And I could put it on the news, and people would think it was a giant alien craft. No. But notice, it's the same thing they just saw over Moscow was one of the blimps taking off. And, of course, the Russians have them. But the really high-tech ones are V-shaped, giant. And CNN shows these in the piece coming up. But first, that's one of the more primitive design ones of Homeland Security right there on screen. I sent you a bunch of clips. Just show one of the local news clips of Salt Lake City where they think, you know, the government won't say what it is, but you know, is it aliens or is it a secret craft? It's a blimp. It's a blimp. It's a blimp. I'm not the conspiracy theorist. I have the facts. Why does the public believe it's aliens instead of a blimp? Here it is, giant UFO over Salt Lake. This is one of the shorter clips. You can go watch longer ones. Go ahead and turn it up.
What's hovering over Salt Lake City? Is it a rocket, a blimp, a UFO? A strange object seen in the skies has residents scratching their heads. The craft floated overhead for several minutes before disappearing. Salt Lake air traffic controllers said their radar didn't pick up anything, and they have no knowledge of the craft.
Yeah, see, that's the issue. I mean, you look, it's a blimp with tail fins, looks like the Hindenburg. It's got propellers on it. I mean, this would be like if the Red Baron landed a red biplane in front of your house, and the news came and showed it and said, we don't know what this craft is. It'd be like if a 777 landed at George W. Bush or H.W. Bush Airport in Houston, and everyone ran on the tarmac saying, we don't know what this is. See, they treat you like you're morons. And there's like a 9-minute ABC newscast where they marvel and the government won't say what it is and maybe it's a UFO and the government said they didn't see anything. They treat you like children and just tell you it doesn't exist and you're seeing things when giant blimps are flying around. Now, I've looked into this story from a few years ago and I looked into the Dallas stories, and clearly they have military bases there. They are launching blimps. And they're only seen when they launch, because when they go up to 100 to 120,000 feet, they are tiny. And people with telescopes, there's literally hundreds of videos online, where people with telescopes run around freaking out thinking they've found UFOs. And people with powerful telescopes, privately owned, keep seeing giant craft orbiting the Earth. And you look at the photos of them, it's giant space stations. 90+% of the space program in the U.S. and Russia has always been military. They've got space planes. I mean, you really think Virgin Galactic of Virgin Atlantic is the only group that has space planes. A private airline company has a couple spaceships, and they launch missions into space for tourists, but the government doesn't have a space plane, and NASA can't get one off the ground. Give me a break. Werner von Braun in the 20s and 30s drew up the space shuttle in Germany when he was the head of the German and then Hitlerian program in the 30s. He was the head of NASA's program. That is an ancient tinker toy that you are shown. The reason they go with blimps is because they're so inexpensive. It's much cheaper to have surveillance blisters, infrared scanners, and face scanners and license plate readers and weather modification packages on blimps